Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of Gainz-Thirty. Guess what time it is? It's Gainz-Thirty. This is a podcast where I teach you how to make gains, which means just to progress towards your fitness goal, whether it be losing weight, building muscle, or getting faster on the track. I'm here to teach you some things that are going to help you do that. Last episode, we talked about pre and post workout nutrition with Denise Russo. She was a certified dietitian and a nutrition teacher. If you haven't checked that out already, go ahead back to the last episode and catch up on that. But today is about a completely different topic. Episode 2 here is about sports psychology, and we're talking all about the flow state. So we're going to talk about what it is to get into the zone, which is basically where you get hyper focused on your activity that you're performing. And we go into all kinds of details about how you can achieve flow state. Our cognitive anxiety levels play a huge role in getting into the flow state, and it turns out that in certain situations and depending on the individual, the amount of cognitive anxiety that's in their head will actually play a huge role on their ability to get into that flow state. For example, it's not very good to have too much cognitive anxiety because you'll feel so much tension throughout your body, and it won't be too good to have too little cognitive anxiety because then you'll be too relaxed and you won't be prepared for the exercise or the event that you're performing in. So, with that being said, Dr. Mi-Sook Kim and I will be discussing ways that you can find that perfect amount of cognitive anxiety so that you can perform at your best. Every one of my sports psychology teachers told us that these kind of skills aren't just for athletics and sport, they're life skills. So basically, you can apply these concepts to anything that's challenging. If you have a job interview, a presentation, or you just have to perform at your best in something you might not be comfortable doing, these kind of things are going to help you do that. So you can get into the flow state not only in sports, but in your job interview or in your class presentation. So, since I'm no sports psychology professional, I'm just someone who likes to learn about it, I decided to invite Dr. Mi-Sook Kim, my sports psychology teacher from San Francisco State University, here onto the podcast to answer a few questions. Without further ado, I'd like to present you all with an interview with Dr. Mi-Sook Kim about cognitive anxiety and the flow state, which is one of the most fascinating concepts in sports psychology. Enjoy.
Hello, thank you for having me here, Michelle. My name is Mi-Sook Kim, and then I am sports and exercise psychology specialist, and then I teach at San Francisco State University in the area of sports and exercise psychology, stress management, and also motivation in performance of physical activity settings. And then I also teach research method and statistics. I got into this field because I was a former athlete, very competitive, and I was interested in psychological mental aspect of physical performance. And I took the class at Chungan University back in my home country, Seoul, Korea. Then got hooked into this field and end up doing masters in that field and the PhD at Purdue University in Indiana. And then I came to San Francisco State 1999. And since then, I've been teaching courses, doing research with my students and then my colleagues.
Today, we're going to be talking about cognitive anxiety and how that can help or hurt your performance. So, do you mind telling us a little bit about what cognitive anxiety or cognitive arousal is?
So the term cognitive says it's about the mental aspect of it. So the researchers have differentiated mental anxiety, cognitive anxiety, and the somatic anxiety, which is physical anxiety, which are highly correlated, but it can be differentiated. So focusing on the cognitive anxiety, it worries, your mind, like racing thoughts and worries about your performance, what happened the past and the future, or right now what's happening. So, and that can be differentiated from physical. While you're worrying about your performance and thinking too much about it, your body could stay relaxed, or your body could react to your negative thinking and cognitive anxiety, worries. Your body could follow your thoughts, and then your body and the mind could be uptight and tense at the same time, but it could be slightly separated as well. That's what it's been found in the
Hmm.
research. Moderately correlated, but it could be separated concept.
Okay, so you're telling me that sometimes when we have that cognitive anxiety up in our mind, it can actually translate to a certain body state. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
so I
And it's
might be feeling tense in my mind, but that tension will be in my body as well.
absolutely.
And that could
However,
inhibit my ability to perform.
absolutely. However, some athletes, particularly experienced elite level athletes, they know how to relax their body because they
Hmm.
have good relationship and good sense of their body, but their mind is racing.
Oh, okay, that's
So it,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
although it's connected, but it's a separable concept.
Yeah, I see. Could
Okay.
it also go the other way around? Like if your body is very tense, could that affect your mind state too? Like,
Absolutely. So your mind is
okay.
ready because you prepared long years, but you start to feeling your body get tense, then you sense it because mind and body is connected, right?
Yeah.
Then you're just like, oh my God, why my legs are trembling, right?
Yeah.
Then like, oh, maybe I am nervous. And then your mind just start racing. So it could go the other around too.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that sometimes. Like if my body feels really tight and I go to the gym, I don't perform as well. It's kind of distracting and it occupies my
Right.
mind while I'm working out. So it makes a lot of
Yes.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And then sometimes your mind is like, all right, I am prepared, I am ready to do it. But then your palm, you feel your hands getting wet, right? And like,
Hmm.
oh my God, I think I'm nervous. Then you
Yeah.
start worrying about it. So
I
it
see.
could absolutely go the other around.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I remember when I was taking your sports psychology class, we learned about how we can use these cognitive anxiety levels to our benefit.
Mhm.
And everyone's going to be a little bit different on how much anxiety they need to perform at their best. And I remember we talked about it as the individual zones of optimal functioning. Could you explain a little bit about that concept there? Because I think that's super important for all athletes and exercisers to understand.
Right. Individualized zone of optimal functioning is the title of the theory. As it says, individualized zone of optimal functioning. Everybody has a different comfortable level of optimal the anxiety and or comfortable what is the tension level that brings to bring their best performance. Okay,
Hmm.
so it's not like inverted U theory. There is another theory that we call it inverted U theory. Says we need to have optimal middle moderate level of anxiety for the best performance for everybody. But this IZOF theory, individualized zone of functioning, optimal functioning theory, says no, it should not be in the middle. Everybody has a different zone, range of comfortable anxiety level for their best performance. Okay,
Yeah.
so for some people, needs really high level of anxiety and or I will say tension and pressure for their best performance, but some don't. They need to really stay the other side, a very relaxed side for their best performance. So I want
Yeah.
to give you an example here, like let's say Jackie, a tennis player who need really high level of arousal for their best performance. Okay, then you will see during the warming up stages or while she's performing, Jackie will use pep talks or like she could listen to like heavy metal music, fast music to pump herself up
Yeah.
so that she can bring her tension level up to the like top so that she can perform best.
Hmm.
However, let's say another one, Leah, she doesn't need high tension. Then while she's performing or warming up herself for her performance, you will see she uses self-talk to calm herself down or
Interesting.
visualization, relaxation techniques to bring her anxiety tension down, or she tended to listen to relaxing music to bring her anxiety down for her best performance. So everybody has to find their best zone, I call it range of comfortable anxiety level so that they can perform at their best.
Wow. Yeah. That definitely makes a lot of sense because I remember when I played football, there were just like everyone had their own little pre-workout routine, you know.
Uh-huh.
Like in high school, I remember we had a guy on our team. He would always like to headbutt the lockers before the games. He
Right.
was definitely the high zone of optimal functioning. And that was just what worked for him. But I remember there were other players who would just sit there with their headphones in. They'd be very calm and relaxed. And I didn't understand the this whole idea and theory at the time of individual zones of optimal functioning. And I
Mm-hmm.
just thought that people who were kind of a low zone of optimal functioning just weren't getting hyped up for the game. I thought they were just not as motivated, but it turns out that this was actually their way of hyping themselves up and getting themselves in the right mind state to perform their best.
Exactly, exactly. So over the course of their athletic experience, they found their optimal zone of functioning, that range. So they are going with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow,
that's
that's
great.
awesome.
Okay.
So I got to ask, where do you stand in the zone of optimal functioning? Are you more of a low anxiety person, or do you need the high anxiety to get you to perform at your best?
For myself, since I am in this field, I end up observing my performance and in my feelings and thoughts related to past performance. If I am more feeling comfortable and have been doing the skill, then I need a high level of arousal anxiety.
I see.
Yeah, so that I can pump myself up for the work or performance that I do every day.
I see.
Okay,
Okay.
so that I get pumped it up. However, if I am trying new skill that I have not done it, okay,
Hmm.
then I need to bring myself relax the level so that I can focus on the task that I'm not familiar with. So this optimal zone of functioning could change depending on your skill level, depending on type of the skills, and also your formula, how much you're familiar with the task also. So you
Okay.
can find that, yeah, meaning for athletes, they're always playing the same sports and they find the optimal zone of functioning and they try to get in that range so that they can perform better. But if they have to do different type of task, they may have different ranges. It's not personality staying all the time same range. Depending
Yeah.
on type of task, depending on your familiarity of the task, it changes. And that's
Yeah.
just something that I wanted to emphasize here.
Yeah, that's a good point because I notice like when I'm in the gym, that's something I do every day, and I
Mhm.
definitely need the high levels of arousal to get myself going for that.
Right.
But if I was gonna go and do like golf or throwing a frisbee or something that I'm not as proficient
Exactly.
at, I definitely feel like I can't get all like winded up. I need to be more relaxed so that I could focus on actually performing the skill properly.
Exactly. So for me as a teacher, um, if I do lecture, then I need to pump myself up because it's everyday thing for me. So that I need to pump myself up to the higher level to enjoy that process and do the better job. If I do though presentation at a conference, then I try to bring my arousal level down so that I can perform better. So it depending on the task and the settings and pressure level can change
I see.
for the best performance. Yes.
Yeah, so that kind of leads me into my next question. How can an individual athlete use the individual zone of optimal functioning model to peak their own performance? Like, how can someone know where exactly they need to be on the anxiety scale? You know, like,
Right.
how do you know if you need high arousal or low arousal?
Like your example, I want to go swing back to your example. You use your example of your teammates, right? Some knows how to pump them up. Some try to use relaxation techniques with a calmer music. They found their range, right? That the
Yeah,
zone of functioning. It took them time. They collected the data through the experience and they found their optimal zone of functioning, right? So
yeah,
if somebody wants to now utilize this concept of their performance, now it's time to collect the data.
I see.
So I would say start with a reflective journal every day. Not every, it doesn't have to be every day, but every important performance that you need to put more attention to it, right? And then
Yeah,
write up where you were at with your performance level, and then see where your anxiety was at for the best performance and poor performance. And
I
as
see.
you're jotting down those experience, you will start to see the pattern. Like, oh, when
Hmm.
I was at here with this prep, I did really good job. But when I prepared this way and then my anxiety was at this level, then I did not do well and then it hurt my performance. Then as you are putting those data together, you will develop your sense of your optimal zone of functioning, anxiety level for the best performance. So that's something that I would recommend. Or if you are more talker, record them. As you're recording them, it stays in your memory a little bit longer. Then and as
Yeah.
you are doing often, then you will find, aha, this is what I need for my best performance in sports. This is the arousal level that I need, anxiety level I need for best performance in school or at work. And you can find the different ranges for the best performance in different places. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
Collect data, your own data. It won't take that long, maybe a couple months, and
Hmm.
slowly find it, try it. Then doesn't work, then adjust it and try it, adjust it, try it, adjust it. Then over the course of time, like your example of players, you will find your best performance zone.
Yeah, so it sounds like it takes a lot of experience to begin to understand yourself and where you need to be, like cognitively before you perform. While I
Right.
like
Not.
your idea of taking notes and
Mhm.
seeing what you did before you perform and figuring out what works well, I think that's something I might implement into my own training routine is like kind of creating like a little diary, like a workout diary, and just like
That's a
writing about
great
my
idea.
experience and saying, okay, today I listened to peaceful meditation music on my way to the gym and I was too relaxed when I was lifting.
Here we
I'll
go.
notice next time when I listen to heavy metal before the gym, it gets me in the zone, and then I'll start to, see the patterns.
Right. I would say you mentioned that it requires a lot of experience. Um, I don't want to say experience. Experience is a part of it, but you paying attention and being mindful and aware your thoughts and feelings related to performance. It's paying attention to them was another one on top of experience.
So yeah, once you find that perfect zone of cognitive anxiety, it gets us into that right mind state to perform. And we often call that the flow state, right?
Hmm.
So could you tell us a little bit about the flow state? Like what is it and like what does it feel like?
Okay, this is very popular concept these days from the positive psychology field, particularly Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, who coined this term within our field. So that's the way to say it. It is very the holistic, right? And intrinsically rewarding and motivating sensation or experience that people feel when they are totally into an activity. It could be exercise, it could be sports, it could be studying for exam, and you feel like things are on autopilot. That's the experience. And because of that, some people express, I hear these expressions quite often in sports setting, like when they're in when they had a flow experience, they say, it was a feel like being in a bubble. I was in the zone, like zone of functioning, right? I
The
was in that
zone, that's a
zone,
good way to
yeah.
put it.
And then I was in the groove, And then another one that I quite often hear in the interviews that athletes on TV, they say, I was in control, I was in groove. Those are the expression, and that's the flow experience. Some characteristics that I want to share with you in terms of like flow experience, it can be feeling of control, like I said earlier, and it's a time thing. Time flew. And then, like I started 2 hours ago. Like wow, it's been already 2 hours
Yeah, it
because
gives
you're
you like a sense of timelessness, right?
right
Like,
because you're absolutely in it. And then
mm-hmm.
and then you don't feel where you're at. Like oh, was a classroom? Oh wow, it was what stadium, and it's just, you lose the where you're at, so you don't pay attention about the location or even time.
Yeah,
That's
time
the one
flies when
thing.
you're having fun.
Exactly. Then also another character is your attention. Your attention is totally at the moment, and
Hmm.
what you're doing, and not it's not even broader. You don't even look at what's going on outside. It's you and your performance. So absolutely focus on the present. Your thoughts are not in the past, like worrying about things, or in the future. What if? It's right now. That's the another
Hmm.
character that a lot of athletes enjoy. Because of that, motivational researchers take this concept as what another special form of intrinsic motivation, special form of intrinsic motivation, because experience is so enjoyable afterward. Like, wow,
Indeed, I
what's
agree.
that? Whoo! I wanna experience that again. That's enjoyment right there. True deeper sense of enjoyment. And then that's the one that motivation researchers call it special form of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah. And occasionally I experience this flow state when I'm in the gym, and I always really treasure those moments when I'm in that zone. And it's weird because when I'm in that zone, I don't even quite realize that I'm in the zone until later on. I look back and I was like, wow, I was like so focused, I wasn't thinking about what workout I was going to do next, wasn't thinking about what time it was, what I have to do later on in the day, not thinking about school, work, nothing. Like the only thing I'm thinking is just almost
Right
like
now.
just visualizing what I'm about to do. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
Another thing that I want to share about flow experience. Recently, researchers started looking into physiological indicators. Like, is there anything changing in our
Oh,
body system? Previous research was more cognitive, emotional, like your feelings and thoughts like that. And more recent research, I mean, we've been talking about it. Like, is there something brain function changes with the flow experience? Was there any chemical our body chemical changes with the flow experience? And that was our questions. And now we have research findings with it. So
really? I'd
more
like to
recent,
hear about that. Like
yeah,
what
more
what
recent
physiological things
research,
go on.
yeah, we found it, and it got published. I can share those the reference with you. So one thing that they found is brain activity, right? They looked at what is the EEG, how things change in your brain. And when they are in flow experience, the brain activity changes, simulating to the experience that when we are having like positive happiness experience. So
Yeah.
brain function simulate that. Another one that they found was the brain chemical dopamine.
Oh,
That's
okay.
more related with our pleasure experience and high positive motivation. When people are in flow or experiencing flow, that chemical dopamine comes out more higher level. So that's what they have found so far. So definitely flow experience is not only cognitive nor the emotional, but it's absolutely with physiological response to it too.
Wow, that's fascinating actually. Wow.
Yeah.
So, do you know anything? Like, I remember in taking my psychology classes, we learned about like the different types of brain waves. Like, you have like the really high frequency, fast ones, which you kind of get when you're feeling more anxious. But I'm almost imagining when you're in flow state, you have more of those like alpha or beta waves that are more slow and kind of like lower frequency and bigger
Enjoy.
wavelength.
Yeah. So it's
Is
it's
that what's going
similar to,
on?
yes, it's similar to the having happiness. When you're so happy with
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing and feeling, um, what is that? I call it deep deepest enjoyment. Like, it's not like excitement much, but when you are in flow, it's similar to when you are truly enjoying what you are doing.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
awesome. Yeah.
there we experience those in other areas beyond the flow, right? That brain waves are similar to that, which is a great finding.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so. I love this new finding recently came out. Like, wow, flow is not only your thoughts, but definitely your body connected with that experience.
I was just wondering if there's a time that you experienced this flow state, and if there was, like, could you explain like what was happening? Like, could you just tell us about one of your personal experiences with it?
Many, not a lot, but I would say, since I know what are my triggers of a flow experience, based on my own observation of my performance and then of course my expertise in this field, I tended to pay attention more to like when I have flow experience, like what was that? What did I do to have that experience? Then I found the common triggers of my flow experience. The first one that I remember, youngest age was I think I was ninth grade, probably. Was running 800 meter. No, it was a 400 meter. I was a competitive sprinter. So 400 meter, and I was not feeling okay physically, and so I was not prepared for the final run. And I asked my coach whether I can just cancel the final run, and because I was not feeling okay, and then he said, "Oh yeah, let's just save your 800 meter and other events. So let's cancel 400 meter." So it was about like 2 hours before my final, run time schedule, and I was sitting there and relaxing myself for other events. Then all of a sudden, I had this feeling like I want to try. So my confidence was kicking in. I don't know. Maybe I was so nervous about the final because I was expected to break the record, like a time for my age category. And I was not feeling okay. Then so I asked my coach whether I can cancel it out, and he said yeah. So then I was sitting there. Then my anxiety went down. I guess that's my experience.
Uh-huh.
Like then maybe I can just try. If I don't break my record, I have another excuse to say I was just sick, right? So I was making all those kind of thinking, and I was sitting there. And then I told my coach, like, what if I try? Then he was totally giving me the control, and he said, yeah, if you want to try, go ahead. So then I started doing my warming up. I lightly did it. And then I was feeling something started clicking with me. Like my confidence was okay. My anxiety was not too high, too low. It was a moderate level. And then, at the starting blocks, I started, boom, I finished it. And then people were screaming. And it was like, what is that? And then it's like, you broke the record. Like, what? And then I
That's
couldn't
awesome.
remember that 400 meter because if you have ever run 400 meter, you will see it after 300 meter, your leg feels it. And then you feel like
Oh,
you're
I know.
running
I know the
backward. It
feeling.
really hurts. So you have to push yourself, like finish it. And I didn't even have that. I just finished it and like, what was that? And then people were screaming at me, yelling at me like, hey, you broke the record. Like, what?
That's
So
awesome.
that's the
Wow.
youngest one. And I didn't have a concept of a flow though. And like,
Mhm.
what was that? That was fantastic. I didn't feel the pain after 300 meter. And then moving along, and then I am performer as a teacher. I teach in the classroom all the time, right? So that's a part of my daily performance. And there are times like I really enjoy the class, clicking with the students. My lecture goes, in flow, go into the control with the students, and then, like the students like waving at me. We're done. Like what? It's already 75 minutes, and then we finish the topic. So it happens once in a while here and there. In the classroom, of course, I do a lot of speech here and there, and some speeches I experience flow as well. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my experience.
Yeah. That 400-meter run experience sounded so awesome. Like I could almost just like visualize it. I've had that feeling before of just performing and just like, it almost just feels like you're doing it so effortlessly. It's such an
Exactly.
awesome feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right. I had more afterward in 800 meter also, and relay with my teammates. So that's called the group flow experience, which
that
we
must be
didn't mention
cool. Yeah.
here. But there are concepts about group flow experience. Um, I mean, not in the research yet, but we started talking about it, like what clicks together among entire team to have that team flow experience. And that's the concept that flow researchers going into to look into, like what happened. Then
Yeah.
they talk about collective efficacy, which is group confidence is one thing, and what else? And then they're looking into more factors related to group flow experience.
I think I've actually had one of those group flow experiences. It was when I was in high school. We were playing against our rival school, and I don't know what happened that week, but our whole team just showed up and we were just playing so fluidly together. Like, usually it was we'd have like one player who would really stand out in the game, and they would get like we had like this award. It was like a big hammer, and we would give it to the person who performed the best that week, and they would carry it into the next game, when we would walk out to the field.
Yeah.
But that week when we played our rival team, our coaches couldn't even pick one player. They were just like, it was a team win, like, and on that hammer to this day, it's still hung up somewhere. It says all these individual names, and just
Fantastic.
week 8 or week 9 against Soquel High School, it says the whole team. It was a team award. It was the
Right.
coolest thing because like I felt like I didn't play my greatest game, but it was enough because every player on the team was just like performing, doing their
I
job,
know.
and
I
it just
know.
felt like this effortless win. I remember after the game, I wasn't even tired. It just felt like I'd finished up practice that week, and
Yeah.
it was an awesome feeling because I've had that flow experience for myself, but having it as a team is just such a cool feeling. Like,
Right. So that flow experience as a group, as a team, is just something that we need to really find the triggers. What are the factors that characteristics associated with that to trigger that team flow experience? That'll be phenomenal if we find that out
yeah,
some
because that could really benefit
characteristics. Absolutely.
professional athletes and professional
Yeah.
teams of all
Not
sorts.
only athletes is one thing, and the group flow experience actually came out through team flow experience through sports, applying flow experience in sports. But in the regular work area, like industry, the projects are done by team. In school settings, things are done by group. I mean, group work and teamwork is the key in our society, and how we can help them to work collaboratively experiencing this positive, powerful flow experience can be, I mean, phenomenal if we find more about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So this leads me to another question. What sorts of things can we do to get ourselves into the flow state? We kind of talked about that a bit before, but I want to tie it all together. Like, how can we achieve flow? Because it seems like such a beneficial thing to have as an athlete. And it would be great if we could maximize how often we get into that mind state. But what sorts of things can we do to get there? Like when I go and work out later, how can I get myself in this zone to do that?
Great question. I mean, when we coined the concept of a flow into more project psychology field, that was a great thing to bring out like what's involved in there. That's the first step. Second step is like, then how can we help us to experience the flow, which is a special form of intrinsic motivation more often, more frequently? And that's the next question for the researchers to find it out, right? So there has been a lot of research done to find out, and there are long lists. Like these are the triggers of a flow experience. I want to share three things today in this podcast. First one is matching what you're trying to do, the difficulty of a task with your skill level. So
Oh,
what you're
okay.
trying to do, so if you're trying to do workout, let's say you're trying to run 3 miles, and that 3 mile, running 3 mile in certain time, let's say 7 minutes, is it too difficult for you or too easy for you? It should not
Yeah.
be too difficult. It should not be too easy for you. So that's what I'm saying. It's matching what you're trying to do, task level, skill level, difficulty level with your skill level. If the task that you're trying to do little bit difficult than your current level, we call it challenging level, realistic challenging level. That's the best to experience flow experience.
Okay. But if I
Okay.
make too big of a challenge, that's just gonna like it's almost gonna like discourage me and get me into
Yeah,
that
and
like cognitive anxiety state.
exactly. So we studied with the cognitive anxiety, and if you're trying to do something that beyond your current level, you're gonna worry about it, like, or even just make you to give up, right? So
Yeah.
you don't want that happen. If it's too easy, then you get bored. Like,
Yeah, you get bored of it.
it's not fun
It's no
anymore because
fun.
it's too
Yeah.
challenging and it doesn't take you to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So matching it is the one thing that I want to recommend from the research findings. Another one is attention. So your attention needs to be on the present. Okay. to be able to do that, so like what you're doing right now, you need to set goals, like your plan. You need to have a plan or goals for that particular performance. So, like you said earlier, when I go to my workout, I have things to do, right? That needs to be set ahead. Like today, when I go to the gym, this is what I'm going to do A to Z planning, or I
Yeah.
call it, if you repeat that, it becomes a routine, right? So, have
Yeah.
that routine before you go to do any performance. It could be workout, it could be training, it could be even your competition or match, whatever you do it, set the routine. So then follow the routine, then your focus will be on the present, what you're doing, not in the past, not to the future, or people
Yeah.
around you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that
That
you can,
about that. I always do this warm up before I go to the gym. And usually it's something that I initially started doing for my body, but I began to realize that doing that routine before I train has way more benefits than just what's happening in my body. It's something that I could do to get focused,
that,
it's like I'm just like swinging my legs around and, doing some core work, but whatever it is about that, it's doing that same thing every time I train. It just gets me focused and gets me ready to go.
right,
So I
right.
totally see where you're coming from with that point.
Right. So yeah, that's the way. So that you can have your attention on the present you were planning, so that you can focus on. So attention is the second one, and the last one that I want to share today, out of the three, positive climate is a key also. So when the place that you're trying to perform should not be the place you feel uncomfortable, or there are
Yeah.
too much noises going on, and or there are people that you don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then it breaks out your flow easily. So make
I
sure
completely
that
agree with
you,
that. Yeah.
yeah, your surroundings is the place that you feel comfortable with and you feel belong to. Then
Hmm.
another one, if you like your example, going workout, you wanna if you wanna experience flow, then you need to feel comfortable with those equipment too. Those equipments are not broken, it's working well, number one.
Yeah.
Then you need to have knowledge about how to use them,
I
right?
always use the same barbell every time I lift.
Exactly,
It's
because
got to
you feel
feel
connected.
exactly the same every time because it gets me
Exactly,
comfortable and I
exactly.
feel okay doing it,
Yeah. Can you imagine you going on the treadmill to run, then you don't know which button to
oh
to
yeah, it'd be
play. Like then
stressful.
exactly like you just said, it brings your cognitive anxiety stress up. You never
Hmm.
get into flow. So match the skill level with your confidence level. Have some routine so that your attention is on the present. Another one, ensure that the climate that you're doing your performance is familiar with. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, you're familiar with it.
I see.
Because of that, class presentation, not sports example, but class presentation. If you are doing presentation, we recommend people to go to the place. Like if you're going to present in this classroom, go there and standing there and practice,
Uh-huh,
right?
yeah, I've
So
done
that
that
it
before
bring yeah,
actually.
it brings your anxiety down. Oh, what if
Hmm.
I cannot go into the classroom to practice because other classes are going on there? Then I say, look at the classroom and then have that in your mind and visualize yourself presenting in that classroom. And that
Hmm.
helps too, so that they feel comfortable with the environment, with the people, so that you can get into a more flow experience.
Yeah,
So those are three that I wanted to share from the
yeah.
research findings.
Whenever I have a presentation in a class, I
Mhm.
would always try to get there early. Same with
Exactly.
exams too. Like it would just help me get more comfortable with it. So by getting there early, I just like accustom myself to, like the nature of the classroom, especially if like no one's there too. Like I get there, I'm like, okay, it's nice and quiet. And I could slowly, you know, adjust to people coming into the classroom until it's a full classroom. But it was a gradual transition into that. Makes me more comfortable and I'm able to present a lot better.
Excellent. That's exactly example. Just be sure that your climate where you're going to perform, you
Hmm.
familiarize yourself with it. That's why athletic teams, when they go away games, they try to go that place and watch it, or if they can practice in that field once. That's what they're trying to do, feeling comfortable with their play.
Okay, so if you had one single thing that you would share with the listeners regarding sports psychology and how to better their performance through sports psychology, what would you suggest to us?
Um, Sports psychology, exercise psychology is not only for athletes or exercisers, it's generally speaking, it's performers. So we call it performance psychology as well. So best performance in our life, in school, in sports, or generally for my workout, to bring my fitness level up or maintain it, I would say the key thing for your best performance is planning. So plan and develop routines, whatever you do it for the best performance. And you to be able to do that, set goals. And then I would say set goals monthly and weekly related to your ultimate outcome. Then if you have monthly and weekly goals, then you can easily develop daily routines and daily goals.
Hmm.
Then having that will help your daily performance, weekly performance, and a monthly performance, which will all come together to produce what? Positive outcome, positive performance outcome. So
Interesting.
not Dr. Coach John Wooden, our legendary coach.
Oh yeah.
And then his key three behaviors that he did to become that successful coach and a person and leader and even parent of all his legendary players. Three keywords that he did as the person and leader and teacher and the parents. Three words I wanted to share: plan, plan, and plan. That's what he did. So I want to share that with you at the end. Always have a plan.
Yes, planning.
Monthly, students, semester, monthly, weekly, and if it's life related, year long, and you can go by 6 months each or 3 months each, set goals. And then that goes translate into month, translate into weekly. And then you will see yourself going into that every day that will produce the outcome that you want and you wish for.
I really liked how you mentioned how these kind of skills aren't just something for athletes, it's for everybody, anyone who needs to
Mm-hmm.
perform any task.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Dr. Boyd always said, he said it so many times. He was always like, these are life skills, not just for
Exactly.
sports. And I thought it was really cool because it made it applicable not only to just exercise, but going to
Mm-hmm.
school and
Mm-hmm.
having a job interview in
Right.
anything, anything where you need to do something challenging. It allows you to meet those demands and perform at your best.
Right. So when sports psychologists work with the student athletes to teach these skills, like mental skills related to their best performance, and then we always ensure that they transfer that students athletes the athletic related mental skills, transfer that to their life skills in their schools and then other beyond. So
Mhm.
absolutely, like Dr. Boyd said, it is a life skill.
Okay, well, I think we had a really good discussion today. I really appreciate you taking your time to come on here and be on the podcast and share with the people some of your knowledge. So it's an honor to have you on here, and I really appreciate you taking your time to do that.
Great to have some good time with the former students. Michelle, it's been great, and thank you for having me here. Good luck.
As we've learned from Dr. Kim's recommendations, it's very important to start looking at what you do before you train and keeping tabs on that and seeing if it's benefiting you or hurting you. Like she said, sometimes you could do things before you train that calm you down too much, and you might not be meeting that optimal arousal level. So, if that's the case, you might need to do something before you train that gets you amped up a little more. But at the same time, it could be the opposite. If you're getting too winded up before you train, maybe you're listening to music that's a little too intense, maybe tone it down a little bit and you might meet that optimal level of cognitive anxiety so that you can perform at your best. You'll know when you find that optimal level of arousal when you get into that flow state. And let me tell you, as someone who's experienced the flow state before, you'll know when you're in the flow state. You'll feel so in the zone. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that before, and you may have just not known what it is. So, keep track of what you're doing before you work out. And if you find that something you did right before got you in the zone, keep doing it and make it routine so that you can continue to get into that flow state because that's when we perform at our best. Thank you so much for listening or watching if you're here on YouTube. I appreciate every single one of you, especially if you've made it this far into the episode. That means you're a real one. So thank you for listening. The next episode will be uploaded 1 month from the date that this episode was uploaded. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube or follow our podcast on Apple or Spotify or whichever podcast service you're using. And if you want more information about making gains, you could follow me on Instagram or subscribe to my YouTube. There's tons of content on those pages that you can learn from. You can find me on Instagram at Mitchell_Gains with a Z at the end. And you can subscribe to my YouTube, Mitchell Borisk.